Say people who believe they have the experience or have some reason to think that maybe they have had similar experiences, and they're not sure how they're going to go about handling it.
You're not gonna like this.
Okay.
Because a lot of times people contact me, and I give them 2 points. Don't talk to investigators, and don't have hypnosis until you yourself know what really happened. Don't let anybody brainwash you with their thinking. And it works.
Until they themselves know.
Remember.
Then how do you suggest that they find it for themselves?
They remember.
It needs to come to conscious memory?
They remember. Okay. This man he was on TV recently, John Salter. He's a professor, full professor at the University of North Dakota.
I've heard the name.
He and his son were driving from North Dakota to Mississippi. He was giving a lecture there. And in Wisconsin, they were stopped and taken aboard a UFO. Now, at that moment, they didn't remember. All they knew was they were, the motel that they were staying in that night, they were late getting there. But the next day, all of a sudden, there's a UFO daylight traveling along beside them. And he and his son both said, "Oh, that's the one we saw last night." And then they said, "What are we talking about? What UFO
it
last
triggered
night?" And then bits and pieces until they remembered the whole experience.
Over what length of time?
Oh, probably 6 weeks.
And then they believe how much of it did they eventually remember?
The whole thing. They've even gone back and found the spot where it happened. He may even buy a house in that general area.
Then did they get over the upsetting nature? Was it?
It wasn't upsetting to them. It was a very, very positive experience.
The more they understood it.
They were never even upset in the beginning. Because the way the UFOs handle it, if it's a real abduction, you don't get upset.
You say a lot of people come to you with their experiences. Mm-hmm. Do they feel more positive about it than negative, usually?
It depends. There's an awful lot of mentally ill people have delusions of abductions. And that's the first stage. It's the delusions. I mean, when a girl who's in the Air Force goes into a bathroom and locks the door and stays in there for 5 hours and nobody else can get in, and then she opens the doors and she walks out and they said, "Where have you been? Why have you been in the bathroom for 5 hours?" And she said, "Look, when you're having sex with a whole crew of a UFO, it takes a while." She was committed for a year.
You don't believe it?
Did you know her? Did you hear this?
Sure. She used to write to me when she was a kid.
How do you separate what you feel are credible or reliable situations from people who may?
Well, most people who have been abducted go to the police within 4 or 5 hours. Some of them end up in the emergency room at the hospitals. So you cannot be abducted and go home and forget about it. Your conscious memory may not remember everything, but your subconscious does, and you react to it.
Then how do you feel about people who may just now have a triggered memory of something that happened long ago that they had never dealt with? What would that?
Look, I went to New York City, and this was people telling their abductions. And one woman told her abduction. So another woman who was there and we took her aside and we said, "Look, we don't want to embarrass you, but you know what you're telling. That was an episode of Star Trek And you played the part of Captain Kirk. You even used the same names as the program. And that's a fact.
In your own experience, though, how did you first become aware that it was the type of experience that it was?
That it was real?
Initially,
look,
it wasn't a conscious memory completely. There was an indication that something had happened.
Well, when you hear my lecture this afternoon,
You'll present all
I'm
that.
going to go into all this.
Okay, then
Right.
you can say I won't want you to duplicate that, but I think your perspective on other cases now and people that come to you, it's valuable perspective that you have.
In fact, I have people call me on the phone and they'll say, let me tell you what happened to me. They came right down through the ceiling and they grabbed me and they took me out of bed and took me right up through the ceiling. And I said, oh, really? How much did it cost you for roof repairs? And they go, and they hang up. A couple of days later, they call back and say, look, are we having a ball? I'm having hypnosis and I believe in every damn word I say.
And the use of hypnosis in your mind, does it compound a problem? Does it create a false?
I'm going to go into that too.
In your lecture?
What kind? There's three different kinds of hypnosis, and they're all using the wrong kind.
So you'll talk about how you feel about the use of hypnosis and other types of therapy?
Also in there, I have on display an article from the Soviet Union on the use of, now we had medical hypnosis, and this is an article on the use of medical hypnosis in surgery. In fact, they're even televising the operations for all the Soviet people can see them. And they got it to such a refined, the hypnotist doesn't even have to be in the interview, into the operating room. His face is on TV. And they do surgery up in Canada using medical hypnosis. And it's being used to cure ulcers, asthma, a whole variety of illnesses.
And
that's what I had, was medical hypnosis.
As a valuable tool, then, is what you're saying.
Yeah. In fact, Dr. Simon, the U.S. Army, did a documentary on Dr. Simon and his hypnosis in the psychiatric treatment of servicemen coming back from World War II. And in 1945. Now, they never released it because they figured the film was too dangerous. 1990, they released it. And it's been playing on PBS. And the name of the film is Let There Be Light. And it shows what can be done. I mean, he took me in who thought they were paralyzed in a wheelchair, couldn't walk. And it was certainly psychiatric. Put him in one trance, medical hypnosis, and said, get up and walk. And they did.
How do you feel about the type of support groups that are springing up now to offer people a chance to discuss their experiences or compare their experiences?
Well, if the hypnosis is valid and handled properly, they don't have any problems. These are problems that are created for them by the wrong investigation techniques. And it's got the psychiatrists in this country screaming on what's being done to harm people.
How do they feel? What harm do they feel is being done?
The whole mishandling.
Misdiagnosis?
And mishandling. I mean, most of the people who are involved, they get the story so they can write a book and make some money for themselves, and to heck with the victim.
That may be the attitude of certain investigators or certain therapists.
And if a person has had a traumatic experience, that person should go to a licensed psychiatrist and get therapy. You don't go for a UFO experience, you go to get therapy. The UFO experience is just incidental.
Do you think they're likely to find a understanding in a psychiatrist for the type of experience that they may be describing?
I have met with groups of 12, 20, 50 psychiatrists over the years, and they're concerned about this.
You've had good relationships
with psychiatry?
with psychiatry.
Yeah. Well, I'm a social worker too, you know.
Yes, that's right.
Just want to ask,
Sure.
would you be able to talk a little bit more after right now?
When I'm through here, no?
Yes. Oh, good. Okay.
Okay.
Stanford is willing to also.
Okay.
Great. But you're going to elaborate on more of this, your opinions on
I'm going to talk a lot about
psychiatry and
not so much. I'm going to talk about medical hypnosis and what it is. Thank God we got Dr. Simon. Somebody else could have really ruined our lives.
How do you get along with Bud Hopkins?
I know Bud. In fact, the first time I ever met Bud was at his house in New York City.
Do you see eye to eye?
Nope. No.
But it's a cordial disagreement.
Yeah. I mean, he goes his way, I go mine.
now I don't know.
I mean, my experiences, I get a lot of people sitting on my phone that Bud Hopkins has seen.
I don't know if you'll touch on this in your lectures. If you're going to, then tell me, and you don't have to answer it. But I was hoping to get an idea of what you thought would be the difference if you had the experience that you had originally, and bringing that out, going public with that then, as compared to if this was just to happen now, with the climate and the public awareness.
Let me say this. We didn't bring it out. We made every attempt we possibly could that nobody, if we'd had our way, nobody would have ever known about it. But a reporter for the Boston paper heard about this somehow. In fact, later he told me that 2 officers from Pease Air Force Base told him. Gave him the whole story, our names, address, telephone numbers, the whole thing. And they did this all like it was a big joke.
And you were at that point anonymous, determined to be.
And it ran for 5 days on the front pages of the newspaper. And we hired lawyers, and they said, as long as it's treated as a news item, there's nothing you can do about it. And that's how it became known.
Once your names were out there and you were known, identified with it, what was the public relationship? How did people react to you? Did you feel?
We'd go out to dinner and we couldn't have time to eat because everybody wanted our autograph.
Celebrity status?
Instantly. Calls from all over the world. We had to hire answering service for the phone so we could get some sleep nights. People knocking on the doors all hours. In fact, I don't know if you saw Peter Jeremiah.
Mm-hmm.
The sighting in Rochester, the Black Wing.
Right.
The sighting was at 2:45 in the morning. You know who gave that report to
No.
Peter Jeremiah? She called me at 3:00 in the morning.
I don't mean to interrupt you and keep chatting as I do this. I'm Debbie Tibby from Channel 11. And I'm working with Jeannie and Rosemary. And it's time we put us for the day. And I'd like to just put this microphone on you. You can keep it in your pocket until you're ready to hook up. And then when we're ready, we'll seat you, hook it up, and then Jeannie and Rosemary will interview you.
Okay.
Great.
Well,